Hi everyone and welcome to Fan Commentary. Now this episode is a classic Power Rangers episode. It's not really a common type of episode. Are they all evil? Or some are good? Because you have to think about it. When monsters come from space, they have to originate from somewhere and they all can't be evil. So this episode, brings up that question. And it starts right off with the monster just being nice right from the get-go versus a something triggered the monster to be nice, magic spell. Maybe he was a delinquent on his world and he wanted to prove himself. And then, unfortunately, or fortunately for him, he was actually nice. I particularly like this monster and a lot of the other ones, which are, good, fun monster episodes. Um, they usually are like kind of like in the between where they're evil, they're not evil, they're more like dramatic, especially like the Lost Galaxy episode with Maya. What's also interesting about this episode is that, this is about the monster. Almost hardly anything focuses on the Rangers. Even though Cassie is the star of this episode, she's not really used. It's all about the monster himself. I thought was really cool because the other episodes that used the good monsters, like I said before, Maya and Trip, they focused on mainly the Rangers' actions and reactions toward the monster. But in this case, it's him. Professor Phenonymous. I really liked him. Even though a fair bit of people don't, and he's not really that much of an importance to the season as much. This is where the show had started phasing out Bulk and Skull, but I was glad that they had gotten a third character because I always thought, like, Lieutenant Stone, he was interesting. He gave something else to Bulk and Skull to do, and I wish he was a part of their team like Professor Phenomenus came with. And he, it worked really well because you think, oh, the dynamic with Bulk and Skull would be broken because they added a third character. But no, Jason Narvi and Paul Schreier can actually work with pretty much anyone and get them to work together, still be funny, and it still fits into the episode, even though they're just a part of the beginning piece here. I also like how, Skull is the one who is actually smart for a change because he's played so many times dumb, doing something stupid, and instead he's like, isn't that a beehive? This is ridiculous. And, he's still playing along, but you could still see that he's like, I don't buy it. This is dumb. I like it. Most times when people are trying to frantically go inside a car and stuff and they're fumbling around with the keys, you could see how they're like kind of intentionally doing it, but Phenonymous actually used his gloves and screwed it up. This I thought was very ridiculous. And at first you're like, well, what are they trying to do? Climb up on the wall? And then he tiptoes behind the car to find out that the pants are somehow like standing up. I don't even understand how they did this joke. Maybe they like dried out the clothes so they became stiff or something. It was a really funny joke. And to top it off, where Cassie actually doesn't want to see them. I always wondered, did he admire the Rangers or did he think like, oh, cool? And not to mention that has to be a Kamen Rider joke. If you pay attention to the monster's outfit, you could see it's not really in good shape. That's the problem with the monster suits. They unfortunately degrade fairly easily because of either actions or, the storage because they were in, they had to be shipped from Japan or over here. It's been over a year. Maybe the monster was in like a recruitment program. I could easily see like the Quantitrons going to planet and, bringing people in by propaganda, or they'll promise you this and do this. What's also been confusing in space, if you ever watch it every now and again, during close ups with the blasters, you'll notice that they use the toys on certain shots. I really don't understand why that happens. The only thing I could think of is that during second unit filming, they don't have the hero props because they're probably with the primary teams filming. And so when they do those inserts, they use the toys because they literally have no choice. Here we are back at the famous park that became infamous in MMPR season 2. They're near the little picnic area. I like this because he's like, "Oh, I'm planning something out and I'm going to do this, I'm going to attack." It's just he's justifying himself to be evil as much as he can. It always makes you question like what is the universe like in Power Rangers besides what we see on Earth? The thing I really hate about when they do these type of episodes is that, the monster becomes good. I actually start enjoying them. They're kind of cool. And they end up just having to disappear for some particular reason or not. Either they get killed off, which is the most common thing, or they turn good, but they have to leave because of some other reason. Maybe they were turned human, or maybe because they were good and then they're just on Earth, but then they don't really do anything. When I see how they end the episode, it brings up this question: is like, you could grab this monster and continue his story in a future PR episode so easily because the way he was left on Earth, he was nice and they left him there. I think this scene was done really well because when it comes to Power Rangers, the level of dramaticness tends to vary, especially when it comes to extras and like mob scenes, and it usually comes off as cheap and corny. This one worked out really well, even though the Quantitrons are not really, hurting anyone and punching anyone, but they are tormenting them and, taking the girls' balloons, although this scene always reminds me of Spider-Man 2's video game. I also found Ecliptor is kind of like treating the monster like probably how he treated Astronema, because he probably sees him as, all right, he came from a planet that not really so evil, but I'm going to try to coax him. It kind of also makes sense if you think about it, because why would they not try to bring in monsters that may not be fully evil? Because Ecliptor was able to turn Astronema, so why not, be able to turn any type of person or monster in this case? We get to see like how Ecliptor technically works in emotionally manipulating or, showing his dominance in order to tell him to get monsters to do his bidding. Because sometimes I always hear like people like, well, how come doesn't Ecliptor just simply blow up the monster right now? It's because, he's giving him as many chances as he can until he sees him as a failure. But once he does this, he basically betrays them and he's no longer going to deal with them anymore. Over there, if you look closely, you could see how bad the suit had become. This episode is very different from the original Mega Ranger episode. That's why it's mostly US footage, which I thought was pretty cool. It's like they couldn't really use the Mega Ranger episode, so they came up with their own thing and was able to get two monsters out of one instead of just simply, getting rid of one monster. What I really hate though is because you start like enjoying the character, and I even like how his mannerism, his voice is like. I really wish he had joined the Rangers team at some point. It would have been interesting if he like said, I'll help you out if you ever need me, and then he's like on the mega ship every so often. It would be fun to have like a monster of some kind and to get used for some positive things, because we never really get to explore, you know, aliens in a, a more bigger scope than just I'm the monster, I'm going to attack the planet. A thing I have to also complain about is that how did Cassie know Waspicable's name? Waspicable never said his name out loud. She never overheard anyone saying his name. That's a little bit of a plot hole mistake during writing. Most of the times, the monsters' names are somehow known. It's a common thing, which is why I wish like the days of Zordon where he always announced the monster's name so that if the Rangers had ever said it, it was perfectly fine. I wish they had brought that back where at least someone would announce the characters' names beforehand, because a lot of times it just gets on my nerves when we hear it. Now, this is one of those rare times that In Space actually uses the Galaxy Colliders in space. This is where the footage from the opening comes from. We don't really get to see that finisher move. I really enjoy team finisher moves. I wish they do it more often, especially in space. This effect is actually pretty good for 1998, which is what I liked about Mega Ranger. They did spend the extra money after, Car Ranger had, saved a lot of money, and the show came back from it, so they were able to spend a little bit more on visual effects, which, paid off for a lot of key sequences. I'm surprised they allowed that actual face hit. It's always weird when it comes to censoring the show. One episode, they'll cut out punching someone in the face, or kicking someone in the face in this case, and other times it'll be left in as is. It's very odd, which is what I never liked about censorship in general, where it's so inconsistent. The thing I hate, though, is that this monster was defeated, like, so quickly. I do like this. It actually shows that, like, oh yeah, this monster type failed, and so don't ever do it again, which is nice, including Elgar pointing out a previous monster that failed them too. So it's just like, nope. He just winged you, and you got shot by like a machine gun of bullets, and you survived pretty good. Which brings up a perfect question. The reason why most people fear the monster is because he's different. So he says, if I was human, this wouldn't really be a problem. But again, he can't change. I thought this was a really nice way to end the episode. Although this is kind of a cheesy effect because all they're doing is rewinding the footage. I wish they had done a little something different. Yeah, that's great and all, but we never get to see him again, or he's never referenced again. It would be a good way to bring back, some element from a past episode. The one thing I do really like about the bloopers is that Bulk and Skull mainly are the ones that are inside the back end. So if we don't really get to see them that often, I always enjoy watching the end credits where they get to shine because, you know, we get to see a little bit of extra material and or them just goofing off in the set, which is such a shame that we can't get to see more of this stuff. There's probably a ton of gems with those two.